Hi, in this video, I'm going to share some of my insider tips and secrets to help you get multiple offers when selling a home in probate, even if you don't make any repairs or updates. As a probate real estate agent, I specialize in helping families navigate the unique challenges of selling a house in probate. This video contains content from a webinar I did for personal representatives and their attorneys. And in the webinar, I share strategies for getting the highest and best offers on your probate property. And I also share tips for maximizing your probate home sale when working with cash buyers. I even share some tips about hosting a cash buyer open house. So whether you're a personal representative or a family member, this webinar will provide valuable tips to help you maximize the value of your probate estate, while also simplifying the process of selling a home in probate. So let's dive in and demystify the probate real estate process and the unique challenges you might face when selling a house in probate. Let's go. Welcome to Probate Real Estate Q&A. This is getting the most when selling a probate home. And in a minute, we will do some introductions. Then I am going to talk about the 3 steps to highest and best offers when you are in a probate situation. And we will leave some time for questions and answers. And if you have a question during the presentation, I want this to be conversational. So just go ahead and I will not see you raise your hand. So go ahead and just unmute your microphone and shout out your question. And we will do that. We'll do it throughout the presentation and also at the end of the presentation. All right. So for those of you who have just joined us, please introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're from, your role in the probate process. So are you a personal representative, an attorney, a family member? Let us know what your role is. And then just let us know what brings you here today. I will also mention that we do have a variety of folks who were invited and will be attending. So there will be personal representatives, family members. We also have attorneys and real estate agents, even some investors who are participating today. But the presentation is really geared towards personal representatives and family members who are going through the probate process. All opinions are welcome. But just so realtors and attorneys know that the presentation is really geared towards those personal representatives and their families. So just a little bit about me before we jump into the content. My name is Reen Kasalker. First name is Reen, sounds like green. And I am a probate real estate agent with eXp Realty. And one of the things that sets me apart from some of the other agents out there is that I have also been a personal representative twice, and I've been a special administrator once. And attorney just called me yesterday and looks like he's going to have me assigned as a special administrator again. So I'm not just an agent who helps families get through the probate process, but I have firsthand experience as a personal representative and special administrator. First time was when my father died and I was personal representative for his estate. And then after that, the attorney that I had hired to guide me through my father's probate process has hired me to be a special administrator and personal representative for some of the difficult cases that he is working on. I am also the founder of Probate Help Desk on Facebook and YouTube, and our mission is really to help personal representatives and families across the country and navigate the probate process. We are there to provide help and support as much as we can. And I am Minnesota based and I serve families nationwide. I am part of a network of agents across the country, and we serve families going through probate. And if I'm working on a probate case in another state, I will partner with an agent who is willing to execute the program that we're going to talk about today. So that's just a little bit about me. And disclaimer, I am not an attorney and I do not give legal advice. All of the opinions in this presentation are my own opinions based on my personal experience as a personal representative, as well as an agent helping families through probate. So what I really hope will come from this is that you will start to learn concepts and top topics and principles of probate that you can then use to discuss with your attorney. So I am not here to provide legal advice, but I would like to help educate you and inform you on the process and the principles so that you can start having better conversations with your attorney. All right, so let's just jump right in to the 3 steps to the highest and best. And I believe that this is one of the things that I do differently than many other agents who are out there. I work really hard to make sure that every probate property I work on has multiple offers so that the family can sleep well at night knowing that they explored every possible option and that they had the highest offers available. Whether they accept them or not is up to the family. But unlike other agents, my goal is to bring multiple offers in a probate situation. And unlike investors, my mission is to help families get the most money for their probate property. So that's one of the reasons I developed this program called 3 Steps to Highest and Best. So the first step in the process is to consult with a probate real estate agent. And I will talk more about this throughout the presentation, but this is really important. And I make a distinction here, probate real estate agent. Now, there are real estate agents and realtors out there who are really good at what they do. Not all of them are familiar with the probate process. One of the reasons why I recommend that you consult with an agent who is knowledgeable and has experience with probate is because there are just enough differences and nuances between the probate selling process and the normal selling process that the things that you or your agent don't know, even your attorney in some cases, selling probate real estate, the things you don't know can cost you a lot of time and money in some cases. So I recommend you consult with the probate agent up front and develop a plan, and then we'll talk about executing the plan as we go. Some people like to consult with a realtor later in the process. I recommend you consult with the probate real estate agent early in the process. After you've consulted with your agent and you've come up with a plan, then it's time to start cleaning out the property according to the buyer profile that we select. And I will be talking more about buyer profiles in just a moment. But one of the reasons why I like to advise families to clean out according to the buyer profile is because a lot of times you can save yourself a lot of time and money by minimizing your clean out efforts. I'll give you an example. Maybe you decide that the best option is to work with a cash buyer. And a lot of cash buyers will let you take what you want and leave the rest. That's one of the benefits of working with a good cash buyer. So if you know that up front, then you can just take the things you want and save yourself a lot of time cleaning out the property. A lot of times I'll see families who will get the property cleaned out, then they'll start contacting buyers. They'll talk to a cash buyer, and when they decide to sell to the cash buyer, they'll realize that they really did a lot of extra work and in some cases even spent a lot of extra money, and it might not have been necessary. So we are going to clean out according to the buyer profile. Same thing if our preferred buyer is a traditional buyer who might come through the MLS, then we're going to have more clean out to do as opposed to working with a cash buyer. Same thing, iBuyer brings a different dynamic and requires a different level of effort when it comes to cleaning out the property and getting it ready. So we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. And then number 3, after you have come up with a plan with your real estate agent and you have cleaned accordingly, then it's time to solicit multiple offers. And a lot of you are saying, Reen, why would I want to submit multiple offers? I only need one. Again, these are 3 steps to highest and best. And what we want to do is make sure that we are getting multiple offers. There are a lot of reasons we do this. One is because if you go with a lower offer from a cash buyer or an iBuyer, there are going to be people in the family questioning why you took such a low offer. Sometimes those offers might come in below the appraised value. And other times the court may want to see more than one offer. So I really like to set the expectation up front that we are going for multiple offers. And a lot of times we do this across multiple buyer profiles, which is how we get to the highest and best. So those are the 3 steps to highest and best. Number 1, consult with a probate real estate agent. Number 2, clean out according to the buyer profile and your plan. And step 3, we go for multiple offers. Now I'm going to drill down into each of these. Before I do, are there any questions from anyone? All right. Yes, is there a question? Mark, it looks like you might have a question. I can't read the chat. Could you unmute yourself?
Let's see.
Yep, I can hear you, Mark.
Oh, there we are. Okay. Oh, no, didn't mean to have a question or anything. Just following along.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about step 1, which is consult with a probate real estate agent. Now, the first thing that we will do is we will come out and we will assess the condition of the house. And even though you may not use this as part of your pricing strategy, it's really important because it's going to help us match the house with the proper buyer profile. So, for example, if the house is in poor condition, the buyer is probably going to have to make really heavy repairs on the house and probably even do a full rehab. That really helps us understand the pricing the pricing and the offers that we might get. It really helps us understand what we might get. And it also allows me and the other agents that I work with write up your net sheets based on the condition of the house and other things that are happening in the area. And you'll understand this a little bit more in just a second. But if the house is in poor condition, we're still going for multiple offers, even if we're working with cash buyers, even if the house needs heavy repairs and a full rehab. And that doesn't mean that you need to do the work in order to get the most for your home. Number 2, or B, is the house might be where it's not in great condition, but it's a little bit dated. And in a situation like that, the buyer is probably going to want to update the kitchen, the bathrooms, the floors, and the walls. So that would be a little bit more moderate work. And again, that doesn't mean you need to do the work, but I think it's important for you to understand which of these categories you fall into so that, again, we can match the house with the proper buyer profile and really set our expectations for what we might get from those buyers and what they're going to do with the house and how they run their numbers. And if the house is in average condition, it might be a situation where we just need to do the floors and the walls. And when I say we need to do the floors and the walls, again, I don't ask my personal representatives to do that work. Many times we will just sell the house as is, even if it needs any of the work in any of these 3 categories. But it's important for you to understand the mindset of the buyer and the buyer profile that you're working with. So it is important to assess the condition of the house. And a lot of times that can help us match you with the proper buyer profile right up front so that you as a personal representative don't spend a lot of time, money, and effort rehabbing your house or fixing up the house or doing all the other things that either other agents or family members might encourage you to do. Now, some people will choose to do that. That's fine. I do not recommend it for my clients, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. In fact, I help my clients net more money in their pocket without doing these repairs, and I can show you numbers. Number 2, we want to determine your timeline and effort that you're willing to put in order to get the home sold. So, for example, if you need to sell the home in a week or 2, and you don't want to spend any time cleaning out the property or removing personal property, a cash buyer is probably going to be your best bet. If you have a little bit more time and you want to make sure that you can solicit offers from through every scenario, including the MLS, then putting the house on the market might be your best option. So we really want to understand what's driving this. There's sometimes when you as a personal representative just want to close the case and be done with it. There are other times when you as personal representative may want to spend a little bit more time because you believe you're going to get more money for the effort. As a probate real estate agent, it's really important for us to understand what that motivation is and then help put that into your plan and still get multiple offers for you. And number three, as part of that consultation, after we've talked about the condition of the house and your timeline, the amount of work that you should or should not put in, then we are going to determine the most likely buyer profile. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. But before I do that, are there any questions about that initial consultation with your probate real estate agent? All right, let's talk a little bit about the buyer profiles then. So I put these into 3 or 4 categories. I have 4 on the list here. And the first category or the first profile would be your cash buyers. Then we also have iBuyers that I work with. We have the option to put the house on the MLS as is. And as always, there's the option to put the house on the MLS with updates. And one of the things that I do is I work with buyers in all of these categories so that we can make sure we're getting you the most money and the best buyer for your situation. So let's talk a little bit about the cash buyers. And the cash buyers can typically close in about 7 to 14 days. The cash buyers will allow you to leave what you want and take what you want. So if there are keepsakes and personal property that you want to remove, you take that with you and you leave the rest, and they'll buy the house in almost any condition. There are really no repairs when you're working with a cash buyer. The exception to that would be if you started making repairs before you talk to your agent or the cash buyer. But typically, the cash buyer prefers to buy your house with no repairs because they're going to make those repairs anyway, and they factor that into their price. And one of the things that the cash buyers will advertise is that they don't charge a commission. So they will tell you that they're going to save you a lot of time in commissions, fees, and closing costs. And while that is typically true, that doesn't always mean that you're netting the most for your property. So we'll get more into that. And if we want to talk about the price, ARV is the after repair value for the property. So if you, I'm going to just use an algorithm like Zillow as an example. So if you were to go out to Zillow and look at your Zestimate, people would assume that the Zestimate is done based on the maximum after repair value of your home. All right. If you look at that number and you just multiply it by 60 to 70%, that is the range where most of your cash buyers are going to be. Now, they all have complicated formulas, right? They're looking at repairs and percentage of after repair value and expenses and holding costs and all those other things. But ballpark, if you look at that high levels estimate and you multiply it by 60 or 70%, that's typically going to be where the cash offers are going to come in. One of the challenges in working with the cash buyers is that they have what they call a buy box. So there's certain things they're looking for, certain things that they will buy. And if your property doesn't meet their criteria, then they're not going to make an offer on your house. The challenge is that you're going to get a lot of letters and postcards in the mail as soon as you file with the courts. And if you reach out to all the cash buyers one by one, you're going to spend a lot of time talking to a lot of cash buyers who might not be interested in buying your home, or maybe it just doesn't fit their buy box. So again, that's one of the advantages of working with an agent who understands the cash buyers. We know what their buy boxes are. We know how fast they close. We know their formulas, and we can save you a lot of time and effort there. And number 7, I always put this on the list: beware of wholesalers. This is something that I didn't learn about until I was a personal representative. But there are people out there that are called wholesalers. I like to think of them as agents without a license. And there are some good wholesalers out there, so I don't want to talk bad about wholesalers. Where I do want to alert you as a seller of a probate property is a wholesaler is a real estate person who is going to come in and make an offer on your home. Sometimes they write the offer. A lot of times they're the highest offer. And their goal is not to buy the house. Their goal is to get you to accept the offer so that you are under contract. And then what they do is they take your contract and they try to sell it to the real cash buyers, right? So it's like two levels of cash buyers. The wholesaler is going to try to get your house under contract and then go out and sell it to another cash buyer. And some of them have really thin margins and they don't make very much money, and others have huge margins and they just do a couple deals a year and they pocket all the equity that you lost in the deal. So many of them have good intentions. They're trying to help, but I like in probate cases, I like to think of them as a middleman who's just going to get involved. In fact, I kind of chuckle sometimes because a lot of personal representatives will, they'll look at item number 4, they'll get the postcard. It says no commission, no fees. They sign up. The person that they sign the contract with ends up being a wholesaler, and they pay the wholesaler. Um, there's more money coming out of their pocket with the wholesaler than if they would have just hired an agent in the first place. So um, some people have good experience with wholesalers. I know some really good wholesalers. When I was personal representative, I went under contract with a wholesaler. The first time I went under contract with a wholesaler who kept my property tied up for almost 30 days and then bailed on me at the end when they couldn't find a buyer themselves. They just said, "Oh, we're sorry, we can't close on this property. You can keep the very low amount of earnest money that we paid you. It's a very low amount." And in many cases, the serious ones, they'll put a bigger amount down. But so that's the issue with wholesalers. And as a personal representative, it can be really hard for you to know which cash buyers are legitimate and which are wholesalers. A lot of times the wholesalers even have letters of funding from their bank or another bank. And so it can be really hard. There's some things that we look for as agents and we know who the wholesalers are, but for you, you might find out the hard way. All right, let's talk about iBuyers. iBuyers are institutional buyers. Some people call them internet buyers. I think of them as almost a step up from the cash buyer because they buy more houses. Their goal is to typically to flip them or to put them back on the market, but they offer you convenience. They can close in as few as 14 days, and a lot of times they will let you set a closing date that might be up to 90 days out. So they really try to offer you convenience. And for the iBuyer, you will need to remove the personal property out of the home. So they are not going to offer to remove the personal property for you. And then there's still no need for you to make repairs, but a lot of times, not a lot of times, what they do is they just deduct the repair estimates right from the price that they're offering you. So they'll take the ARV, they'll subtract, you have to subtract your fees, and then they will subtract any repairs that are needed on the property. So you don't have to make those repairs. Again, going back to our previous slide, it's good to know what those repair costs might be, or at least have estimates, but you don't have to make the repairs. The iBuyers will just deduct that from the sale price. And they do charge commission and fees. And typically they're going to be 70 to 80% of after repair value, sometimes even higher. I've had them come in at 90 to 95% of ARV, depending on the house and the market. So iBuyers are a really good option if the house needs moderate repairs, or even better if the house doesn't need any repairs at all. Again, you must meet their buy box. So for example, in Minnesota, there aren't a lot of iBuyers, and some of them will not buy in certain cities and certain zip codes. And so again, you can spend time, or even worse, some of the families I work with, they want the iBuyer to be their fallback plan because they saw an ad or they saw a billboard, or they got something in the mail. And then they find out, they wait too long to contact the iBuyer, and then they find out that their house doesn't meet the buy box and they don't really have a contingency plan or a backup offer. So I like to contact the iBuyers right away, see if our house meets their buy box, and get that process rolling. And if they do submit an offer, then that's just one more offer towards the multiple offers that we were talking about. And again, I already mentioned this in item 3, but they will reduce the amount of the sales price in order for the estimated repairs. So those are your cash buyers and iBuyers. Those are good options to close quickly and do minimal amount of cleanup and clean out, but there's still some work to do. Now let's talk about MLS as is. This is something where I am able to generate a lot of offers, expose the home to a large pool of buyers, and still keep the family from spending a lot of time, effort, and energy doing work. So this is a very viable option that I offer as part of my three-step plan to highest and best. And this is also an option that a lot of other agents won't necessarily present or talk about. So this is something that is a nice option. So if you decide to go on MLS as is, now we're talking about conventional buyers who have to take out a mortgage, and we're talking in some cases it could be an FHA or a VA buyer, and whether we will get offers from FHA or VA really depends on the condition of your home. So again, going back to the condition of your home, it's really important. May determine what kind of buyers we attract on the MLS. And then, at least in my market right now, closing, once we get that offer, it's about 30 days to get the offer. And then it could be anywhere from 14 to 60 days to close. Again, you need to remove personal items from the property. However, in some probate cases, I have families who leave the personal items in the property during showings and allow the buyers to mark off items that they would like to keep. So we've had some clients who had the buyers go through the house with blue tape, and they would just put blue tape on everything that the buyers wanted to keep, and then they would remove the other personal items, which really saved them a lot of time and effort in their clean out. In this situation, people automatically assume that because the house is going on MLS that they need to start making repairs. Um, and I wrote limited repairs because if you're going to do something like, floors and walls, that's fine. I still don't recommend it. And one of the reasons that I recommend that we go on the MLS with limited or no repairs is because this is a probate case, and we want to make sure that we are protecting the liability of you as the personal representative, and that we are limiting liability and issues with the estate. And so I use some forms and deeds and different tools that are really really key in protecting the family and the estate from liability, and the attorneys love it. But as soon as you start making repairs, and the more repairs you make, that changes your risk profile. It changes your knowledge. You start to discover material facts, and we might not be able to use a waiver of liability or some of the other tools. So a lot of times, um, when we're dealing with a probate home, limited or no repairs can often be better than actually making the repairs. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I can show you some of the numbers on the net sheets. A lot of times you can still pocket more money and get a bigger net without making repairs, even on the MLS. There are going to be commissions and fees. In most cases, those will pay for themselves because of the significant amount of money that you're getting above the cash offer. And if we go on the MLS as is, you're still not getting that full ARV in most cases, unless we get a bidding war going. In most cases, you're really talking somewhere around 90% of that after repair value. And that might not sound great at first, but when we start looking at the numbers and we start looking at the amount of time and energy you save by going with this option, a lot of times it works out really well. Now, a lot of times the financing in this case would be conventional financing because depending on the condition of the house, FHA and VA buyers might not qualify, or they might not make it through underwriting. And the other side of that is maybe they come back with contingencies and they say we can only get financing if you make the repairs. And I've seen that happen as well. And then we have to sit down with the attorney and the family and decide if it's worth it to make those repairs, or if we want to hold out for a conventional buyer, or go back to the cash buyers. It really just depends on the profile of the home and how many repairs are needed and asked for. And again, I mentioned liability waivers, and and some of those other tools that we use. And as long as we are very limited in our work and or not doing any, it's a lot like selling to a cash buyer. The only difference is we're putting the house on the MLS. So that one really surprises a lot of people, but I've in probate cases, that's kind of the sweet spot where we've been able to generate a lot of offers and still bring people really good nets. Let's talk really quickly about MLS with updates. So it's going to take you a little bit longer to close depending on your market and depending on how much work you have to put into the property to get it ready. In this situation, you're going to have to remove all of those personal items. You are probably going to have to start making more significant repairs, right? So for sure, you're probably going to have to do the walls and the floors, and you might even be thinking about doing the kitchen and the bathrooms. If you have to do a full rehab, then I would say no. Like, let's not even go down that path. Um, there are commissions and fees, and that is where you start to get, up to full market value for the home. If you decide to make updates on your home before you put it out there, this is where you're going to start appealing to some FHA and VA buyers who might not have qualified if we list the house as is. And then you lose some of the disclosures, some of your waivers on the disclosures and the waiver of liability. So the more work you put in the house, the more time it takes, the more it costs you, the longer it takes to close the estate. The other side of that, though, there are sometimes there are families who decide that they want to family decides that they want to put the effort into the house, but they also want to close probate. So in those cases, they will work with their attorney and probably transfer the title into a family member's name and then close probate and then go back and deal with the house. That's not unusual. There are tax ramifications. And so before you make that decision, I always encourage you to talk to your attorney and your tax advisor. So those are some of the buyer profiles. And again, when we talked about the 3 steps to getting highest and best, our goal is to bring in multiple offers. So unlike a lot of the other agents in my market, what I will do is I will bring in offers from all of these profiles where it makes sense. So for example, I will typically start with the iBuyers to make sure the home qualifies and get that process going. And then I will do a cash buyer open house where I will go to my list of cash buyers and bring in, 10 to 20 cash buyers and generate maybe 5 to 7 offers. And in addition to that, we will then be ready to also put the house on the MLS as is. And we don't put it out there for 30 days or 60 days. A lot of times we will put it out there for maybe 1 or 2 weeks just to see what the level of interest is and to see how many offers we get. And then at the end of 2 weeks, we've got one offer from the iBuyers, multiple offers from the cash buyers, and hopefully some offers from the MLS as well. So my goal is not to limit your options to just one category or one buyer profile. One of the values that I bring to you and your family is we work across all of these profiles to bring you multiple offers so that you can make the best decision and then close quickly once you do. So those are buyer profiles. And before we go to the next slide, are there any questions about the buyer profiles? Okay, step 2 then is cleaning out personal property. And one thing that I recommend for any family, if there are keepsakes or items that you want to keep, remove those from the property immediately. And if you do remove them, take pictures so you have record of what it was and who took it. But try to get those off the property immediately so that those items don't get thrown out or donated later or just disappear. Then after you've removed everything that you want to keep, then we will decide if you want to sell any of the personal property. And some of the options for that, number one, we could do an estate sale. And with the estate sale, things are going to move fairly quickly. It's fast, and there is a cost involved in that. So typically you're paying about 25 to 30% of what the company that does the estate sales. Whatever they bring in, they take about 25 to 30%. So some people aren't comfortable with that. But the other side is it's convenient and it's fast, and you don't have to do the work. You can generate a lot of money quickly. Another option, one that's really popular with my clients, is the online auction. It's very similar to an estate sale, but we advertise all of the items online. Again, this is fast. Cost is about 25 to 30% of the net, or I'm sorry, the gross that they bring in. But a lot of times, what's great about this option is you don't really have to do anything to prepare. Your items are being marketed online, and I've had clients generate almost an extra 15 to $17,000 in the sale of personal property just through an online auction. And then people come to the house and they pick it up and they take it home, and now they're paying you to clean out your house. It's fantastic. A lot of people talk about garage sales. Families like to do this. This is not one of my favorites, but I know families like to do it. This is slow a lot of times because you're relying on family members to help and organize and get things, get everything ready, have the date, promote it. People come over, then you're selling something for $5 and they offer you one, and you're negotiating, and it's low cost, and I'm not a garage sale guy, so for me, it's very painful. And then another option is, and believe it or not, people do this, just sell items one by one on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or Amazon, wherever they're selling stuff. And this is painfully slow. And I've had family members do this in one probate case where I was personal representative. And I only did it once. I'll never do it again. Um, people people make appointments, they don't show up. They show up and they try to negotiate you down. One person shows up before somebody else, and then the person that shows up later is upset. People, knocking on your doors. We had to call police a couple of times. You get some really weird people that show up at your house. Um, there's going to be someone in your family who wants to do this. You decide, but I don't recommend it. After we have the personal property, after we have kept the things we wanted in number one, then we've sold the items that we want to sell in step two, then we can donate the remaining items. And again, I encourage people to do those donations after the offers come in, and that's in case you go with a cash offer, or if the buyers might want to keep some of the furniture, some of the bigger things that are still remaining after you've sold as much personal property as you could. So donate, but I recommend donating after you have sold any personal property that you want to sell. And then last would be discarding anything not sold or donated. And if you do this in these steps, right, if you sell, keep the items you want, then sell as much as you can, donate remaining items, by the time you get down to step four, there shouldn't be that much left in the house to clean out, and it'll save you a lot of money on the clean out crews. If you clean out at all. Again, if you're working with cash buyer, you can just leave everything at that point. So that's the way that I recommend families work on personal property. And again, understanding our buyer profile and our timelines with the real estate really helps determine how much time we want to spend on some of these items, right? How much time do you want to spend trying to sell the personal property? How much time do you want to spend donating items? And donating is great because you can use that as a tax write-off on the estate, as well as pass through into your personal taxes. And again, I'm not an accountant, but that's one of the things that my tax advisor and attorney discussed with me, and I know other families have done it as well. So you can save yourself a lot of time and money by using this approach and then matching it to your buyer profile and your timeline. Step three, multiple offers. And I think I've already covered a lot of this, but we'll run through it quickly. I start with the iBuyers to establish a baseline. There is nothing worse than seeing an ad on TV or somebody's billboard where they talk about how they'll give you a guaranteed offer, any house, any condition. that's your backup plan. And then when you go to execute your backup plan after you've exhausted all the other options, then you find out that your house doesn't fit the buy box and you are in tough shape. So I always start with this step first, and I will contact the iBuyers on behalf of my clients when I know that the house meets the buy box and take care of everything. Then I work with the cash buyers. So after I've reached out to the iBuyers to establish a baseline price, then I will go to my cash buyers to get multiple offers for the court and the family. And this is a lot of times we could do this very quickly as well, just by doing something like a cash buyer open house. Something that a lot of agents don't do. I do it. It's very successful, and we can usually generate 5 to 7 offers on a typical house within 2 to 3 hours, even if the house is in the worst condition that you can imagine. So now that we have offers from the iBuyer and the cash buyer, then a lot of times the family will choose to put the house on the MLS for a couple of weeks to get multiple exposure to the most buyers and see if we get any additional offers. And last but not least, I always encourage the families I work with to give people in the family a chance to match the best offer that we get. All right, so just think about it for a second. If the only offers that came in were from cash buyers and they're at 60 to 70% of ARV, there's going to be someone in the family that's really upset and they accuse you of selling a house for a really low amount, right? So they think the house is worth 300,000 and you get a cash offer for 175, and they're all frustrated, right? Just fix it up. Take 6 months, fix it up, get to 300,000. I'll do the work. It'll be worth it. You've all heard those things before. Well, rather than doing that, what I recommend is if our best cash offer or our best offer total from MLS or cash, if it's 175, give people in the family 24 hours to match that offer, right? So if our best offer is 175 and they are an heir and they get a portion of the inheritance, they can buy it for even less than 170, right? 175 minus their portion, and they get a chance to buy the house at what they think is a great price. You still have sold the house for the money that you can possibly get, and you know that because you've worked with iBuyers, cash buyers, and MLS buyers, and you keep the house in the family. Now, a lot of times what'll happen is when it's time for family members who are complaining to get the checkbook out, a lot of times they'll just pass, right? So they'll be complaining that you're selling the house for too low at 175, and then you say, well, you can buy it at 175 minus your inheritance, but I need to know in the next 24 hours. And guess what? They disappear and they're happy with the 175 offer at that point. So this is an extra step that I put in my 3 steps just to keep peace within the family and help everybody to sleep better at night, knowing that the house sold at the highest maximum amount and everybody, including family, had a chance to match the best offer and keep the house in the family. Number 4 really saves people a lot of time and a lot of headaches. So those are that's how we solicit multiple offers and make sure that we're getting the best offer. One thing that is different here is I'm not relying on those appraisals. I'm relying on the marketplace, right? So a lot of you have probably been in situations where you go out and you get an appraisal for a probate home, and depending on the market conditions or the time of the year and the condition of the house, there's no way that you can get the amount in the appraisal. With multiple offers, a lot of times my clients can take their multiple offers back to the probate judge or the referee, or I do this for them. I will explain the situation, explain the multiple offers and why the offer that is being accepted is reasonable given the situation. And a lot of times the court will approve it, even if there's no appraisal. Now, I realize that in some states, in some jurisdictions, an appraisal is required no matter what, but a lot of people assume that an appraisal is required even when it's not. And so by bringing in multiple offers from iBuyers, cash buyers, and the MLS, a lot of times the court will be much more open to those offers if you need to get court approval. So any questions about how we solicit multiple offers in our three-step process? All right, well then let's recap. Again, this is our three-step process to highest and best when you're selling your probate property. And it starts with that consultation with the probate real estate agent. And again, this is how you get multiple options, right? If you just consult with a traditional agent, they might just want you to fix up the house and put it on the MLS. If you go directly to a cash buyer or an investor, you're only going to get one offer from that cash buyer or investor. If you work with someone that has a plan to generate multiple offers from all of these different buyer profiles, you will know that you did the best you could for the estate. Once you know what buyer profile you're working with, start cleaning out the property according to the buyer profile. So again, if it really looks like you're going down the path of cash offer, maybe you put less effort into cleaning out the house. If you are going down the path to selling to an iBuyer or MLS as is, you want to put a little bit more effort into cleaning out the house, at least initially. And then number 3, go for multiple offers, right? Don't just get one offer from one cash buyer. Don't just go for 3 offers from 3 different cash buyers. Really explore all of these options and do it in a way that it doesn't add to your level of stress or does not add to the amount of work and effort you need to put in. A lot of times in probate, the amount of work that we're putting in is based on a set of assumptions that we are making about the real estate market or the probate process. And when we start to peel back the onion and look at these things, not all of these assumptions are true. And a lot of times, I do it all the time, we can generate multiple offers without a lot of extra effort, without a lot of extra work, and without a lot of extra headache. So really work with someone who can bring you multiple offers. Thank you for watching our webinar on selling a home in probate. We've covered a lot of ground today, from working with probate real estate agents to exploring various buyer profiles and strategies for getting the highest and best offers when selling a home in probate. Remember, when you're selling a house in probate, the key is to understand your options and seek multiple offers to maximize the value of the estate, especially without making repairs. If you found this information helpful in your journey of selling a home in probate, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more insights on probate real estate. And don't forget to check out Probate Help Desk on Facebook. It's a community for personal representatives and attorneys who are going through probate. And also follow Probate Help Desk on YouTube for additional information and support. Selling a house in probate doesn't have to be overwhelming, and with the right approach and guidance, you can navigate this process successfully. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.